Well, hello, my friends. It's Lynda Lippin, and I welcome you to the very first episode of the Pilates Goddess private podcast. This is very exciting for me. I hope it's very exciting for you. This is content that is not going to be shared in the public podcast like ever. And I also want you to know that even though I do a pretty detailed breakdown of the classical mat exercises on the public podcast, I'm going to be doing another breakdown here. So, at least for the first bunch of episodes, we are going to be looking at the system. I'm going to start here with reformer, but that's not to say that that's all we're going to do. So, and when I break down reformer, I'm actually going to break it down in levels. So we're going to get basic and beginner, and then we're going to get the layering in of intermediate, and then the layering in of the advanced work. So you're going to see it kind of separately, and then how it merges together as you're teaching a client. You will also get a sense of what exercises in the contemporary Pilates canon are actually just modifications or variations of classic Pilates exercises, which is, pretty standard as far as I can see in the world. So if you say learned a whole lot of exercises where you're sitting on the box, just sitting on it, doing things with your arms or doing things with your spine, just understand that those exercises are just modifications of seated, kneeling, standing exercises on the reformer that a client might not be able to perform right away. Okay. So in this episode here on coffee, we are going to be discussing the first exercises in the beginner or basic Pilates reformer. I hope you guys are kind of psyched about this. I'm psyched about this. I think this will be interesting, hopefully, and useful for everybody. So let's get cracking, as they say. Let's get started. So first of all, regardless of the manufacturer of the equipment that you're working on, there is the mount of getting on the reformer. Okay. I was taught this very specifically when I started doing Pilates at Purchase with Steve Giordano. And the way you do it is you stand next to the reformer, basically next to the foot bar or the springs, facing forward. And then you pivot to the side, you sit down on the reformer, and then you just pivot your body around, lie right down, feet to the bar, head on the headrest, and you're ready to roll. Okay, so there is, like on the mat, there is a mount for the reformer. Also, you can genie the arms. So it's genie arms, sitting, lying down. So you're basically sitting at the edge of the reformer closer to the foot bar so that you can easily flip your torso down and be ready to roll for the footwork. Now, in classical Pilates in general, leg work, like footwork, is done on 3 or 4 springs, usually 4. Okay. Arm work generally is done on 1 spring. And then kind of full body work, all the other exercises are done on 2. That's sort of the standard run. It can be a little funkier if you're dealing with color-coded springs and lighter and heavier springs, but know your equipment, know what your equipment feels like for your client. Okay, so first of all, we start with footwork on the toes with heels together, toes and knees a little bit apart. Now, this is not a giant first position. This is not turned out so much in external rotation that only the back of the heel is together and the knees and toes are really wide. This is a small, maybe fist distance between the big toes stance, with the inside of the heel squeezing together. And that way, once your client's there, the knees aren't going to be wide open, be just due to the positioning, right? So you don't have to correct so much on how wide the knees are or what's going on if you have the feet in the right position. All right, you're kind of on the ball of the foot, or, you know, really pushing into the ball so you can lift the heels a little bit. The sacrum is super, super heavy. The collarbones are open. The headrest is up. The spine is wherever it is with a really heavy sacrum and open collarbones. And then you're inhaling to stand and exhaling to sit. Inhaling to straighten, exhaling to bend. Making sure the legs can straighten all the way, okay? And then come back into the bend. So it's really a sense of standing and sitting. Standing and sitting, inhaling and exhaling. Now, we're not moving the spine into flexion and extension. We're on our backs, okay? So the breathing here is fine. It gives people a sense of getting the lift and extension on the inhale and a little bit of flexion on the exhale. You should not feel like your carriage is out of control or your torso is out of control or your client is out of control. So if you're looking at somebody and they can't keep the sacrum down, they can't keep the hips wide, you can't keep your sacrum down, you can't keep your hips wide, you feel like your shoulders are shoving up against the shoulder blocks, then you need to drop a spring so that you can get heavy at the bottom again, wide across the top, and find the stable torso and that nice differentiated movement at the hips, okay? We're doing basically 8 to 12 reps here. And then you come to the arches with legs squeezing all the way together. Now, why aren't we going wide, a little bit wider in line with the hip bones? Because frankly, my friends, we're exercising. This isn't a place we're asking our clients to live. You're not asking people to stand and walk with their legs close together. You're asking people to do an exercise with the legs close together to really work the inner thighs and work the feet and work some other things, all right? So you're coming to the arches. I want you to feel the reach of the heel under the bar as much as the toes over the bar, okay? Inner thighs are squeezed together. Again, the sacrum is heavy, the collarbones are wide, inhaling out, exhaling in. Then we move up to the heels. The feet really flex, the pinky toes really pull back. Again, the inner thighs are squeezing. You know, yes, you can modify this. You got somebody with a hip replacement, you got somebody with knee issues, you got somebody with arthritis, you got somebody with whatever. Yes, you can take the legs apart, do what you need to do. But the exercise is legs together on the heels, really working that dorsal flexion, that pulling back. And then you come back to the toes inside of the heel, pressing together again, straightening the legs and going for the tendon stretch. Dropping the heels under, lifting the heels up. This is where I remind my clients, this is an awesome assisted stretch, as long as you're not just hanging into your back and hanging into your legs, and your knees really let the springs help assist the stretch and get the work on the way up. Now, like I said, there's many variations you will see on this. The prehensile work, the feet hip width apart work, the second position corners of the bar with the hips heavy work, like all of that is fine. Those are all variations and modifications on this original set of the Joseph Pilates footwork. So if you want to add to that, I've been known to go into second position for a client, say with osteoporosis, who just really needs the bone strength that might not be able to do standing stuff later on, you know, whatever that looks like. If you have clients with a leg length difference or whatever, you can use pads, you can use pillows, you can elevate one foot so that the hips are even. Some clients don't need that, right? Because their body has already adjusted to the imbalance. I always say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Okay. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. After the 100, if you're on a classical reformer, you're going to put the bar down. Ideally, you stay on your back. You bring one foot under the bar, you lift it up, you take your other foot, you kick the kickstand away, and you gracefully drop that bar down. If you're on a contemporary reformer where the bar locks, you may have enough room to be able to keep that bar up and do the other work, or you might want to sit up and put the bar down. Up to you. Then we move into the 100. The 100 here is relevantly similar to the 100 on the mat, right? The difference is, of course, now we've got tension in the arms and the upper body. Now, on a classical reformer, we're staying at the same spring tension as in the footwork. Why? Because there's no ball bearings in the wheels of the carriage. So once you come up and press the arms, the carriage kind of sticks where it is. I do not recommend doing 3 to 5 spring 100s on a more contemporary reformer. That could be a problem. There's too much pushback. There's ball bearings in the wheels. So again, you need to pick your poison and kind of figure out, you know, what the machine's doing, what the body's doing. Always remember that working on Pilates equipment is a dance between you and the apparatus. Okay, the apparatus has a lot to do with what's happening. And, you know, in general, the 100 here is the same. If you're working with clients with osteoporosis or neck issues, you're going to keep the head down, right? If you're working with, say, clients who have a diastasis recti, you might keep the head down, you might curl the head up, you might do a lighter spring. You know, and if you have somebody who's really having an issue with the arm situation and is not able to push forward, number one, look at your cueing, consistently talk about open collarbones, pushing the springs forward and pulling the abdominals up and in. And if your client is still having an issue there, let them drop the handles and just do the 100 without on the carriage. It's fine. Okay. Now, all of the supine arm work that you'll see in more contemporary systems is awesome. Know that it is all modification of kind of the 100 and coordination and those things, okay? It's the sense of doing the straight arm presses, the bent arm tricep presses, arm circles out to the side, whatever you're doing. But just know that once again, those weren't like Pilates exercises. They're variations and modifications on things like the 100. So here we are. Now, another thing I want to talk about is straps. Okay, so if you are working on a contemporary reformer that has double loop straps, which I think is what most people are using now who use that equipment, I'm going to challenge you to use the longer strap for your hands and the shorter strap for your feet, in general, except when you're doing leg circles and frog, or you're doing long spine stretch. So if you're, say, on that reformer with the double loop straps, you're going to use the shorter one for short spine. You're going to use the longer one for long spine. If you're on a classical reformer, you're going to get up at this point. You are going, if you're teaching on it, whatever, you're going to get the black extension straps or gray extension straps, whatever color they are, from the back of the reformer, which is usually where they live. And you are going to take the leather strap and the handle, you're going to hold them together in your hand. With your other hand, you're going to take that black strap, you're going to thread it through both, clip the strap closed, do the other side, get back down on your machine. Now you're going to be at 2 springs. 2 probably heavier springs if you're on a more contemporary reformer. Just 2 springs if you're on a classical reformer. Feet go in the straps. They are going in the longer strap if you have a double loop for leg circles and frog. I usually start with frog just because I find it a little more stable for most people. I have them set up their legs and feet the same way they did for that first footwork. Inside of the heel together, not back of heel, not overly wide. Collarbones are open, headrest is up. And they're pressing out and bending in. Now, as a classical teacher, I will often do here an inhale out, an exhale in. Do what you want as long as your clients are breathing, okay? Now, what are you looking for here? Again, you're looking for the torso not moving, okay? The tail is heavy. There's differentiated movement at the hip. Then legs straighten. You start going into the circles. Again, watch your range of motion. I recommend too, if you're using a contemporary reformer, get those risers down. Don't leave those risers all the way up. Bring them down as close to the frame as you can, and then adjust your straps, okay? Now, leg circles are pretty much great for everybody. Frog, pretty much great for everybody. 100, pretty much great for everybody. All of these things easily modified. Right? I will talk probably later in this private Pilates podcast more about modifications. I've talked a lot about them on the public podcast. Then you're going to take those long straps off. We put them back. Then we come into stomach massage. A lot of you may not teach stomach massage. You may hate it. Your clients may not love it, but I'm going to tell you something. Stomach massage teaches us how to sit up. Say it again. Stomach massage teaches us how to sit up, breathe, move our bodies effectively. Okay? If you can do rolling like a ball on the mat, you can do the round back stomach massage. Okay? They're a similar exercise. So if you're on a classical reformer, you get up, you put your bar up, you take a black sticky pad, you put it towards the front edge of that reformer in the middle. If you are on a contemporary machine, bar is up, you're on, and on the classical, you're on 3 to 4 springs. Okay, contemporary, probably same thing. I would probably go heavier versus lighter, but that's me. Now you're sitting very close to the edge. Think about rolling like a ball. Think about things like that on the mat. Hands come to the front. Spine is round, round, round. And I'm actually going to end with this series today. And then we're going to talk about where we see these in the studio. Okay. Stomach massage round, hands go to the front of the carriage. You're sitting in this very tight ball. Heels together, toes a little bit apart, same positioning inside of heel. Inhale, pressing out. Exhale, coming in. Now, if that's fine for you or your client, then you inhale out, you lower the heels, lift the heels, exhale in. We do that 6 to 8 times, okay? Then we go into a flat back. If you're on 4 springs, you drop down to 3. If you're on 3 springs, you stay there. And then you sit up tall and you bring your hands back to the shoulder blocks. Palms are down, okay? You're pressing your hands back into the shoulder block, not at the top, at the front. So it helps you stay in position and lift your spine, opening your collarbones. Same work. Inhale back, exhale in. If you can hang out there for the heel drop, do it. Then you drop down to 2 springs. Both arms come off. You're up as tall as you can. Inhaling out, exhaling in. And then we add a twist, inhaling into rotation, keeping the heels together like spine twists on the mat, exhaling back in, inhaling, go the other way, exhale in. Okay. And that's the stomach massage. Now, I want you to first think about footwork. Okay. We see footwork everywhere. Okay. Footwork is your basic squat. Footwork shows up in double leg stretch, in single leg stretch, okay? Footwork shows up in squatting on the wall. Footwork shows up in leg springs. Okay, footwork shows up a lot in Pilates. Footwork shows up anytime we're trying to move our legs bare weight, keep our torso stable. Think about how many times we do that. It also teaches us good form in sitting and standing. Okay, so if your folks can maintain their form of sitting and standing the way they do in their footwork, then awesome. Footwork also gives you, as either a practitioner or a teacher, the ability to really assess where you or your client is on that day. Like, how's the back feeling? How's the legs feeling? How are the hips feeling? How's the back doing? What kind of weight are we working with? Um, Footwork shows up seated on the chairs and seated pumping. The work of footwork shows up a lot. Footwork is about leg strength and a stable torso. Now the 100, well, we know the 100. We know where the 100 shows up, okay? The 100 shows up everywhere. There's a version of it everywhere. Whether the arms are weighted, whether they're unweighted, whatever's happening, the 100 is a valuable Pilates exercise, and I encourage you to teach it. I really, really do. Leg circles and frog on the reformer for me are just a joy. They're just a joy. The ability to have assisted stretching in my hips and my hamstrings is just huge. My sacroiliac joint loves it. My arthritic joints love it. It feels very nourishing. I work on, whatever range of motion I can get. Sometimes that increases as I'm doing the exercise. And I don't know anybody for whom these don't feel good. Now, if you're teaching or you're doing them and you're noticing that your client is just unable to keep their pelvis stable and do the work, then you need to lighten that spring. Okay. You want this sweet spot where you're able to keep your torso down and stable, but still enjoy the assisted stretch and work that the springs are giving you. Now, leg circles and frog show up everywhere. They show up in footwork. They show up in stomach massage. That's coming next. They show up on the mat. They show up on all of the pieces of apparatus. And then finally, you have, like your round stomach massage, that's seated work. Think about your rowing. Think about your rolling like a ball. Think about your spine stretch. Think about all the rolling exercises that we do. Okay. The flat, once again, think about the rowing, think about the lift, think about chest expansion, think about all of that work. For arms off for the reach, same thing. Okay. Think about that shape that you're in. Look at the shape that the body's in when the legs are straight and the arms are reaching. And think about all of the exercises in Pilates. all of them, right? Your spine stretches, your saws, all of the exercises, your rowings where you're sitting and you're lifted and you're reaching, reaching, reaching. And then your twist, keeping the legs even, keeping the torso steady, getting nourishing head-led rotation into the body while you're moving against resistance and having some assistance on the way in. Again, this is work that we all need. This is work that is helpful for everybody. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments actually below this audio, and I will be, of course, checking the comments. I'll respond here. I will also kind of use them more within the private podcast. So next audio, I will be now going through the short box, the elephant, the knee stretches, running, and bottom lift, and then we are done with the beginning reformer. There's not a lot of exercises, but there's a lot of juice happening in this beginning reformer series. So thank you so much. I hope this was useful, and I will be back with you next week with a new episode. Thanks so much. Bye.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.